All right.
I think Maureen is dialing in, but maybe she's getting out of the next meeting.
She'll be over in a second. She just got done with the meeting.
Was that you, Amanda?
Yes.
Hey, very nice to meet you.
Okay. You too.
I was all excited for our cover slide over here. I actually made two versions of it because I wanted to have this one too. And then it dawned on me last minute that we have guests from Ohio here. So I don't know if this is a sore subject.
No, we're Browns.
All right, all
So
right.
that would be a sore subject for them.
All right. Well, congrats on that. Congrats on last night and looking forward to the next 2 hours. Amanda, I know we only have you for the first hour, so it's going to be pretty action-packed. And as you can see, today's goal is we do want to dig in. Jared will walk us through all the financial reporting and everything. We're going to then go into some field services and mobile time entry, payroll Q&A, and then of course go over the implementation plan. But as you can see, we assembled a relatively large team, but my role here, it's great to see you all again, and it's great to meet you, Amanda, as well. But my job is simple, is just to assemble this amazing team, and I'm joined by Jared.
Yeah. Thanks for attending, guys. Obviously, you see, I'm the solution consultant for the team today, and a little background on myself is that along with my CPA, have over 20 years of accounting experience in the construction and project management space. So well versed of aligning that front end to the back and being able to generate some reports that our executives can use to make decisions as well as control costs myself. So excited to show you the platform, especially the reporting platform. We have a very, very powerful reporting engine, and it allows you to really capture the information the way that you want and then utilize it in a meaningful way. So excited.
Got it. And I see we have a new face in Carol. Good morning, Carol.
Hi, good morning. Nice to meet everyone. I have been with NetSuite for 7 years. I have also on the same team as Jared, and I also specialize in the payroll HR environment inside NetSuite. So it's an area that I have a lot of familiarity with. I've been working with it for 6.5 years and have been involved. I've been in accounting for over 20 years, but in that time I have done a lot of HR and payroll along the way, particularly I've worked in smaller companies with startups. So nice to meet you, and looking forward to discussing this towards the end of the day.
Okay, thanks. Hey, Isabella.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining and thanks for having us. My name is Isabella Olivares. You'll be seeing some of our solution here at Efficiency on the job costing side. And then I'll also be walking you through the overall implementation methodology and high-level plan on how Efficiency has helped construction customers, such as like yourselves, implement NetSuite for your business. And then I'll hand it over to Paul to introduce himself.
Thanks, Isabella. Good morning, team. Paul McDonough here, one of the principals at Efficiency. Been in the NetSuite ecosystem for a long time, 15 years plus. Also, one of the original members of Efficiency. We specialize on NetSuite and doing NetSuite implementations, and have also built some applications that help NetSuite as well from a job costing perspective, and really have a lot of focus in the construction industry. So I'll be doing a little bit of demonstration today, and looking forward to it. And I'll pass it off to Michael and the field service team.
Awesome. Yeah, my name is Michael Mergener. I'm a field service lead here at NetSuite. So we are part of the overlay team that gets brought in for specific use cases like field services. So excited to show you our solution. I've been in NetSuite field services for 4 years now. And with me, I've got Susan Thompson. I'll pass the torch on over to her.
Susan Thompson, based out of Toronto, Canada. I've worked in the NetSuite ecosystem for approximately 16 years. And working with the field solution today. So looking forward to walking you through that and showing you the field service aspect of it.
Awesome. Thank you, Susan. So again, we have experts in accounting, reporting, projects and field service, and job costing. I'm really excited to kind of dig into this. And just quick question, can you all see my screen? For some reason, it's not outlined, but do you see everyone's names here? Wonderful.
Yep.
Hey, we understand who Furbish is, that you're on disparate systems and you really want that single service, and you're eager for all your your team, Amber, your whole team is asking all the right questions. And I just want to share that we are all really excited because we have something called ideal customer profile, and Furbish falls into that. The fact that you can use all of the suites. So many times it'll be like kind of like having a really good SUV and you're just using it to transport your skis. And you're not using all the functionality of the SUV. And we're just really excited about how much functionality Furbish can leverage. And just for those not familiar to NetSuite, we've been around 25 years. We are one of the first cloud companies, if not the first multi-tenant cloud company. We've had multiple, that means we've done updates every 2 years. All 37,000 of our clients have been updated twice a year. And we are a leader in the space of anything with a project, an inventory item, and a transaction. There's no one that comes close to NetSuite in terms of all that functionality in one system. And just a quick snapshot of, some of the companies that are using NetSuite, the people that you'll be in the same company as is, you'll see, Dunkin' Donuts, J&J, you see American Express, Business Travel. These are all great companies. I share these big names because they have very strict security standards that we have met. But please know we have 37,000 clients. The majority of our clients are coming off of QuickBooks. So what's really exciting is I look at companies like DoorDash. I look at companies like Roku. I look at companies like GoPro, where they started out from QuickBooks, went to NetSuite, and where they grew on us. They grew to billions of dollars in revenue, and they went public all on NetSuite, and they haven't had to go through another ERP migration. So our hope, our vision is that this will be the last time your whole team has to go through looking at all different systems, and that it's one and done when it comes to NetSuite. And yes, the Baltimore Ravens run NetSuite. If there's no questions, I'd love to turn it over to Jared and we can hit the ground running here on reporting, dashboards, and everything. Amber, is there anything else I should touch on, or does that sound like a plan? Take that as a yes. Hey, Amber.
Yeah, sorry, I lost you for a minute.
Oh, no problem. I was going to say, is there anything else on NetSuite background, or we could jump right into the live demo now?
Yeah, let's go.
You got it. All right, Jared, I promised you I'd be done in 2 minutes, and I think I met that.
Like I said, I need just for my, for my longevity to be able to live long enough, I need to have your time clock. To like I live in dog years, you live in human years, so all your times are a little stretched, but I love them.
Cool.
I'll just let me know if everybody's able to see my version in NetSuite here.
We can.
Awesome. So going to do a very, very brief overview of, our home dashboard and some of the reporting capabilities. I know we talked about, there was a request around some of those international transactions, and we'll get into those as well. But this is the home screen that, you log into daily. These come pre-configured based upon leading practices of our large customer base, based upon the role that you're in. So day one, even if, without implementation, if we're just turning the lights on day one, the roles are going to have dashboards, but again, based upon those roles. So your controller is going to see a lot of financial information, project managers, project information, executive team, high level information that they want to see. But it's just a jumping off point to kind of, again, tickle your curiosity of, the art of the possible, right? Because and we call these boxes here portlets, the dashboard and all the portlets are all customizable. So, we can drag these around, we can move the content where we want to, we can add, delete. So if I, want to remove this, I can. We can, again, add additional content. So if I want to see my calendar of appointments as I log in, I can have that land here. That'll all update. We have portlets, meters, lists. Really, again, the content is yours to design. So a few of the portlets I like to highlight is one, especially for the Suprema group, the subsidiary navigator. So, as you run a multi-entity organization, to get that insight of, consolidated look versus individual business look, usually requires some manipulation in Excel. Here, we have this illustration of the org chart. And I know this is not, ideally what yours is set up to, but the functionality of the navigator here is that, right now my dashboard is displaying the consolidated information for the organization as a whole. But if I was just curious about the Furbish organization, I can now click into that and you could see the dashboard transform and distill the information down so that I'm only looking at those metrics that are associated with Furbish. Similarly, I can go down a level, look at that TRP roofing product, see how they're performing. I can come into the Resisto. Again, everything's distilling and updating in real time and giving you a look. Similarly, if we're running, a company overseas in a foreign currency, as this ChemLink is set up in this system, you're going to get a real-time look in that foreign currency, and that currency is going to be translated, day to day based upon the exchange rate for the day. And then I can click back into it and again get that holistic view of the organization. Again, super helpful. I've ran companies where we had 22 and just logging in, logging out, taking it out to Excel, consolidating it, ripping it apart. Just a headache, and to be able to do that with a few clicks is very impactful for me and meaningful for me. Similarly, down below we have KPIs. These are, again, something that's available to you and your teams out of the box based upon, what are our customers using to ascertain the health of their business. We're going to give you those, but again, this portlet is customizable. So, we can come into here out of the box. We're going to give you dozens of standard KPIs to choose from. You can see them here, and there's an additional page. So again, utilize those as you wish. You could see here we have various comparison ranges. So for sales, I'm looking at this month versus last month to date. But there's, again, choices out of the box for you to make this content resonate with you and your teams. Similarly, we have conditional highlighting, so it stands out should it hit this metric or another. So those are the standard KPIs out of the box. Available day one for you and your teams. But we also leverage custom KPIs within NetSuite, and what those leverage is a functionality that we call a safe search. And what that is a general query into NetSuite where we're defining the criteria, the results that we want to see based on that criteria, as well as how we're utilizing that information. Do we want it to be part of a KPI? Do we want it to be more of a report? Do we want it to utilize it as a reminder? And we'll jump into those a little bit later, but it allows you to build out information that you want to see that's not, out of the box, and it's done through in a click, not code philosophy. And I hope to get to that as well later when we jump into the reports, but again, all very customizable. Similar down in board metrics, this resonates with me, more KPI feel, but it gives you comparison ranges of periods, quarters, and fiscal years. So you see a broad range of information to see where the business is trending. Being a former principal accounting officer, I was always tasked with managing the debt covenants. So you'll see those down below. But if these aren't the ratios that you want to see within this particular portlet, we can define those. Again, most things are definable here in NetSuite. So if I come to my KPI scorecards and I go to, where is my, we could just come into the financial performance ones. You'll see we're able to build out very easy to define formulas to then be able to access on your dashboard, be able to click into them, see the makeup of those ratios so that should we need to manage those, we can go to those, we can go to those subledgers and see, what we can massage in and out of that.
On that page, can you, this company does its contracting, so can you add it like for a specific job, like so that you could look at metrics by job here?
For this particular board metric?
Well, yeah.
So I guess one is that the jobs, they have their own individual dashboards that we can build out the content that we want to see within those.
Okay.
An AP
That's
tab's
probably
got,
what's more important to these people than this. They don't, I like that, but
sure.
really only the finance team looks really into all those items. They want to see more reporting on a job perspective.
Sure.
We should have been more clear on that. Sorry.
No worries. And you'll see down below we have some of that. So these are just
Okay.
portlets. These are just portlets that we build out. This is a saved search that is, I'm now defining the columns that I want to see, whether, this is revenue, build to date, actual cost. We can bring in project cash flow. Again, it's all definable what we want to see. Is there some stuff out of the box? Sure. But again, each person in company judges, the progress and success of projects individually. And that's what makes NetSuite so powerful, is the ability to define and capture that information and then utilize it in the way that we see fit. So again, this is just project actuals. We can narrow this down to have it only visible to, the project manager only sees their projects. The role definition that we have within NetSuite, I kind of skipped over, but NetSuite is a roles-based solution. So day one, each and every one of your employees is going to be assigned a role that's going to govern what they can and cannot do and see within the system. So with those definitions of what they can see, they're only going to be able to access the information that we deem accessible to them, and it will land appropriately on their dashboards. We can build out these dashboards, publish those out to our project managers, so everybody has the same base set of information that we want them to track against. Then they can build out that additional content that they find useful to themselves. And so within here, we have projects by, hours, what are estimated hours, what are actual hours, where these particular projects sit, so that we can, what's encroaching, what projects are encroaching on their budget, which ones aren't, which ones do we need to talk about. I was always let's manage to those to those projects that are underperforming and in jeopardy of failing, and let's get ahead of that before it becomes a problem and we lose money and or customer credibility. Again, all of that's landable on whatever dashboard, whether that's project, whether that's home. Let's define that during implementation.
Yeah,
Right,
thanks
so
for that.
during,
And
sorry.
Maureen, please
Mhm.
keep asking questions like that, because definitely projects is a big focus today. You'll be seeing a lot of this in Paul and Isabella's section and Michael's section. We're like project crazy in today's demo.
Which is great because they are project crazy here.
All right, but please keep
Perfect.
questions coming.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those I could, very quickly kind of go through those, the international invoices and, how we're tracking unrealized and realized gains, and then kind of cede the floor to the project team. I can then circle back to, financial reporting, our segmentation. It's one of the, I mentioned it before, reporting is just one of the strongest points of NetSuite. And I love demonstrating it from the income statement and showing all the segmentation and how we're able to utilize that segmentation to really have visibility into different aspects of the business.
Right.
So
And
Maureen,
I mean, that is where we struggle right now. And that's why reporting was, on the top of the list to talk about today, because, one reason why we need a new system, I mean, there's many reasons, but, reporting was one of them. We can't tell how we're doing on the jobs or how the company's doing in certain areas because, other limitations, but then reporting was huge. We just don't really have the reporting that we need to be able to determine where we're at. I love this project screen where it kind of tells you, where you are in billing and your gross profit, but then, the estimated and versus actual and percent of completion. I mean, this is great information right here on a dashboard.
Yeah, and this dashboard, this component here is actually pretty neat in that the sense that it, has multiple versions of itself. So, we can look at, what's this job default look like? This is something that we could define. So you can have within a single portlet multiple views of the same information and projects. So again, that you're not having to continuously run different reports or log into different systems to see the project in kind of again, whether that's from a financial perspective or an hours perspective or whatever that may be, we're going to be able to set that up and define, and then again be able to have that toggling effect that is really, really powerful.
Okay.
So kind of getting off the generalized dashboard, one other component I like to highlight is the reminders portlet. So, as you develop workflows within the organization and create those handoff points, it's going to land on your reminders portal, whether that's via a pre-configured reminder or one that we develop through a saved search. So they could be, task driven, where there's an actionable item to perform as journal entries to approve. So if I click into the journal entries to approve, it's actually going to take me to a landing page to actually perform those approvals. I can rubber stamp in and mark them all and post everything, or I can go individually and mark them off and, review the supporting documentation, whatever that may be. Those are actionable, but we also have informational reminders. So, maybe I want to look at the COI compliance for our subcontractors, and now I can create a saved search that is illustrating to me, all of the subcontractors that we employ that, have COIs that are either inadequate or are nearing their expiration date. And if we come into this search, you'll see kind of the nuts and bolts of a saved search, as I kind of described them before. So we're defining the criteria here, and we're saying these fields that we've captured on the vendor record of, is their GL aggregate COI, is that checkbox marked true? Is their limit either empty or their expiration is on or before 30 days from now? And here are the results. I want the name of that vendor and the insurance information so that my team can go out and reach out to that particular vendor. But NetSuite takes it a step further in the sense that we can actually email these results from the recipients of these results. So the vendors that are showing up here on this saved search, we can actually email them from the emails that we've captured on their vendor record themselves, and create a dynamic message that we can schedule out to go out. Maybe this happens, every Friday we send out an email reminding these subcontractors that, hey, within the next 60 days, your insurance is going to expire. Please remit a new one, or else you can't go on site, type of thing. Very helpful in that sense. If we want to, if we're not part of a specific workflow, but we want to know when specific fields are updated, again, just these informational reminders that hit your dashboard, we can associate that here as well. And then you can see up top here, this is how we're going to utilize this saved search. We can make it public. Do we want it to be available in a list view where we're just seeing information? You could see we have a dashboard, reminders. So again, we're able to define how we're utilizing this information. And it's one of the key components of NetSuite within its reporting environment, is this saved search, because it allows you to capture information, how you want, where you want, and then utilize it in the same sense. Staying on reporting, if we go to this reports overview, out of the box, you're going to get 250 standard reports. So if I collapse all these, you could see, we have forecast, pipelines, financial, inventory, all of that. But if we expand it all, you'll really get a sense of the depth of the reports that you'll be mostly available to on day one. And I say mostly because I have some save search and some save reports here, but for the most part, you are going to be provided this on day one. And then from there, we're going to massage those to make them in the format and with the content that you and your teams want within, and then save those down, and then those will become sticky for the remainder of their useful life.
Hey, thank you,
any
Jared.
question? Yeah,
I was just curious,
comments?
Amanda, this is the area I alluded to that I asked Jared to double click on. Anything you'd like to see him kind of expand on here?
Do you have any estimate, how would you see an estimate versus actual on a project? I know
Sure.
that's something that we like to see.
Yeah, and that's where directly following my presentation, I'm going to see the floor to the app efficiency team, and they're going to be running the projects on NetSuite within NetSuite, and then provide all that reporting. So you're going to see all of that, post haste.
And if there was I can't think of any off the top of my head, but if it wasn't already a template report, is there a way to completely create a report by scratch?
Yep. So within these reports here, you'll see, we can go to a new report, and know that I'm, doing these for illustrative purposes. So, a lot of functionality around any of this information we could build reports around. We could build new financial reports that are balance sheet, the income statement, cash flow. But then on top of that, we have that safe search functionality where if we come into here, now we can really define what we want to see. And so you could see all of the available options that we have to build reports around. And just say I want to come into a project, right? I want to build a project safe search that's going to act as a report for me. I'm going to build out my criteria. What do I want to narrow the focus on? Maybe that's in progress jobs, right? So the filter would be, give me the status. So you'll see here would be the status, and I'm just going to say I want my in progress and maybe my pending, right? And so you can see this is all that click not code philosophy that I was mentioning. So now I have that criteria, and now this is the information that I want to see based upon that criteria. And again, all very definable. So you could see all the fields that are exposed on this particular one just straight out of the box. But then when we get into these ellipses fields, so, if there's a specific customer field that we want to bring into the report, if we click into there, there's additional content within here. So the depth that you can build out your own reporting is tremendous. And again, really a selling point of NetSuite in the way that we make it easy for teams to build out their own environment. Most of our customers are administered through their finance department, so your controller CFO level, because you don't need that highly specialized computer science degreed person to build out everything for you. You're able to self-serve and really give yourself the content that you deem appropriate.
Question about like the reporting in the implementation. Will reporting be included in any of that? Like, or do you just get us set up and then say, okay, you have to figure out all your own reporting later? Like, how does that normally work?
Paul and
that-
Isabella, is that a good? There you
Yeah,
go.
Paul, I'll let
Yeah.
you take that, but we're not an absentee father. We'll definitely take care of you.
I can address that. It's a really good question. So as Jared mentioned, NetSuite does have a number of these out of the box reports, and there's multiple different reporting mechanisms within the system as well. If you just want to look at a report, if you want to be alerted of a condition that's in the system, like, hey, I have a project that's within 10% of its budget or something like that, and you want to email triggers, that sort of thing. So what we do in an implementation, we'll basically make sure that you have all the folks that are using the system have their roles and permissions defined. They will have a dashboard that comes out of the box. And then as far as, I need to tweak some of these things, and that's where we basically go ahead and tweak some of these to your processes and to your desires. Now, as you go through and start learning NetSuite, you'll be able to do a lot of this on your own, but you might also have special requests as well. So we support not only the initial setup, the overall system setup so you can transact within it, but then also now how do I report on what I've done? So a lot of NetSuite has standard out of the box capabilities. We've built some others, but we always have go a little bit extra because you'll have something unique required. So that's where we come in and ultimately build that, show you how it's built. You can ultimately build. There's nothing we can do in the system that you can't. The only difference is we've done it for a few more years. That's all.
Yeah, and
Thanks,
to
Paul.
gush, a little bit more on Paul and his team is that the reason that they're here is that they're experts in the field. So you're not going to be talking to a person who's so unfamiliar with project work and, hey, like, what are you talking about? Like, let me Google that real quick. Look away while I Google. Paul's going to know exactly what you're talking about and be advised, consultative in, this approach we've seen work really well in the past, but the decision's up to you, and let's talk through that and build it out according to your spec.
Hey, thank you, Jared. And Maureen, I'm Exhibit A in terms of making reports easy. I am a very average student. I was sharing with Michael, but we live and breathe in NetSuite. I run my business on NetSuite. All my reports, when I'm trying to look at my pipeline, trying to look at clients using certain modules and everything. So excited to really kind of double click into here, and Jared will be passing it off. But Isabella, I know you were about to jump in there. I know you're on the hook for alignment between deliverables. Did we miss anything?
No, not at all. I think Paul summarized it really well.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Jared.
All right. Yeah, it's two more things. Want to get into, let's just jump into a quick income statement, show some of that segmentation and how it's going to allow your teams to have that visibility into different aspects of the organization. Then we'll get into that international transaction, and then you'll hop over into with Paul and Isabella, and they'll walk through some of that job costing and see some of that reporting that's available there. So,
really quick, I just want to let you know that the international invoicing is from a vendor.
Sure.
So it'll be, so it's just the expense side of that, not we're invoicing international customers.
Yeah, no.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah, either way,
Okay.
it is fine within the system. It'll create those unrealized and realized gains once those transactions are fulfilled and paid for. So we'll see that very shortly, but want to jump into here. KPIs, again, informative on the surface, but if I want to dig into this 4.2 number, as I click into it, I'm driven to the income statement for the month of November here. So we have predefined periods here. So we can select periods, quarters, years, whatever we want to do, or we can define the information down below specifically. So maybe I want to have a year-to-date look. We're looking at a consolidated view of the company. So again, very, if anybody's ever consolidated multiple businesses and tried to provide executive level reporting, you know how cumbersome just to get this look is. To have it just at a click of a button, again, very, very powerful. So I'm looking at January through November, but if let's just go the whole year. If I now want to have some context to this, give me a trended income statement, rather than look at my information by total, I can come down here and define it. I want to see it by accounting period, so I can get some context around these numbers. Are these good, bad, and different based upon our trend? And you can see now I have a trended income statement and can now click through on, miscellaneous expense. We have a big dollar number here. We've been trending at 0. Now we have a big $14,000 number. What's this about? And as I click into here, I could see there's a big $11,000 number, and I can click down through to the source transaction. So from my home screen, I'm 1, 2, 3 clicks away from actually being at the source transaction. And give me 1 second. I'm not entirely sure where that one's taking a second to load, but you'll see it here. And then from here, we're able to view any of the attached documents, any, is anybody working on this? So you could see here, this is for the Jared Vacation Fund. It's Nacho Business. Not a huge fan of this particular invoice. and so now I can come in, review any attachments. I can see, here is my, my invoice. It's not for, it's not even related to the, vendor that's listed here. I could look at the attached waiver. It's just a guy kissing a dog. What is going on here? Who put this in the system? And so now I can actually create and make NetSuite a place where conversation happens and activities are tracked. So I can create a task directly on this record and assign it to someone in the organization. Say, what is this? What is this? And assign it to an individual, maybe Ann Trainer. And prioritize it. I want it completed by today, create a message, look into this. And now, she's going to get a task on her dashboard, but also within our communication and our activities, you'll see we're tracking this activity. I've assigned it out to Ann Trainer on this date. It's still not started. So, as we have those Monday morning huddles and the things around transactions and projects, we could see, we could track that, we can manage it and provide additional resources should they be needed. So it really becomes a communication environment. If we can email directly from the records themselves, the responses back will land on the transaction. So again, everybody's informed should we give them the appropriate level of access to these records. Jumping back into the income statement, we're looking at accounting period, but I mentioned the segmentation. Maybe I want to look at it, by our different subsidiaries. How are our different subsidiaries performing year to date? And so now I have a listing of all of my subsidiaries, for the year to date take a look at those. I can look at, our different lines of businesses. How are those performing year to date? And all I'm doing is calling it up through the column and using our segmentation to do so. So now I'm looking at our products, our project management, our maintenance division. How are all those performing in relation to each other? And then I could further segment this. So maybe I just want to look at our class for a specific subsidiary. So maybe I want to see it for our Furbish group only. And now I'm clicking onto that and again, distilling the information, and it's done so in a very intuitive way. There's other ERPs that, that promote segmentation. I've seen them. I just don't think it's as intuitive to be able to do so, to have that consolidated look, to have, that different divisions, those different classes. We can look at, what's our departmental spend within Furbish? How's that looking? What's our administrative engineering operations team? What's all that spend looking like? And we can again, narrow all that down. If I go back up to the consolidated and just go back to total, or maybe I want it by accounting period, we can come to it by projects. You can look at it by a project level. So if I go to this Philadelphia Phillies one here, and now I could see month over month how financially this project is performing, as opposed to kind of looking at it through a job cost lens. We can have a different visibility of it through an income statement. So a lot of functionality within this income statement. And then from here, as we mentioned, we can always customize these reports from the columns to the layout to any additional filters to how we're sorting it. We can lock these down to who we want to have access, the audience. All of it's definable within the reports themselves. Questions, comments on the reports? I do want to jump really quickly back into the reports because there's one thing I want to show you. And let me just pop up a new one.
And I did get one of those alerts that Jared was saying, because we use our NetSuite expense reporting, where somebody in accounts payable was asking me if I really had Taco Bell for breakfast in that same sort of note, because they were approving my expenses. But again, we live and breathe inside this application.
Absolutely. So down below, you'll see that, one, we're able to expand, collapse the reports depending on the hierarchy that we set up. Very useful in certain senses of we only want to give and provide these external parties certain information at a certain level. Can do so very easily. We can export into Excel, PDF, CSV, Word, print it, email it, but we can also schedule these to go out. So if we have some of those individuals that, do we really need a license for them? They're just kind of report consumers. This is one of those options that we can do, and we can run these reports similar to those saved searches where, this will go out every Monday and Friday. We could define the recipient list, whether that's internal or external, create that dynamic messaging, and then define how they're getting this information. So if they do have that access and we want them to kind of navigate and drill down, we can give that to them. If they want to do some ad hoc reporting, maybe provide it to them in Excel, or it's read only. Here's your PDF, Mr. Banker. This is the information you asked for, take it. And so from here too, we can see, what reports are scheduled to go out, so we can throttle those reports should we want them to stop, or, maybe just pause for a moment, whatever that is, but they're all listed here so that, again, we can enable it or disable them. I mentioned that we can export into Excel, and that's not wild functionality in the ERP space, but I think the way that we do it is, again, better than the rest. So I'm a former Excel junkie, an addict, recovering still. I haven't been out of the business that long. But, I was always, put in positions where the Excel export would, have leading spaces, have a bunch of merge cells. The data just wasn't usable right out of the gate. Outside of these top 6 cells, you're not going to have any merge cells, in the data itself. You can see there's no leading spaces, so we don't have to trim out and just make the file usable as we export. You can see it's in the same format that we've designated in NetSuite. But the two things I want to highlight is that even though we're looking at a summarized version here, if I come into here and unhide everything, all of that detail still remains. And then as well, the formulas remain. So if we want to do that ad hoc reporting, we could do so, and we could drag the columns over and assure that we're footing as we do over in the source data. So again, just being a guy that doesn't want to know how much time he's wasted formatting Excel documents within his lifetime, I just find this tremendous. Questions, comments on the reporting? I mean, again, that's just kind of tip of the iceberg reporting. There's a ton. And
I have like, it's more of how things are I don't know what the word I'm looking for, like segregated together. So like how the operating expenses have all that, like if we didn't want those like subcategories and we just wanted to see the running list of expenses, could we
just
have
like a trial
that?
balance look?
Yeah, more like a trial balance.
Absolutely.
And like keep like, I mean, keep like one section, like the operating expenses up top and like the other income separate.
Absolutely. And
That part
that's that's where within the layout here, we're going to create header rows and the like that sum up kind of family group members of those accounts. But again, if we just want a full out listing, absolutely, we can define that and set that up.
Great.
Amanda, anything else you'd like us to double down on? Jared and I did discuss a couple of, the topics here, and we definitely wanted to make sure, as being that this is your first time seeing it.
I did watch the other demo, so
okay.
So I got that one. I guess I just like just a quick question, like journal entry uploads, what file types are available? So you don't have to actually show, but like for imports, is it all CSV, Excel, or something completely random?
Yeah, exactly. So we're gonna bring in flat file CSVs. So within the transactions, you'll see there's a listing of, here's going to be your journal entry, but we're going to create that. If I click into here, it's nice that you don't have to come to us for a template because we'll accept whatever you're pushing into the system. Yeah, and then we're just going to have to map out the fields, and it's done so. And just let me grab one just to highlight it for you. I'll just do this one. This is not a journal entry, but it'll give you a context of how the mapping works. So this is an advanced journal entry, but you can see here are the fields that are available on a journal entry. Here's the line level detail, but you're not like, well, how do I get information into, this memo field? Like, we'll just click memo, and then we're going to put this, we're going to associate this line with the memo. And so it makes it very easy. And then from here, you're going to save that template down so that you don't have to ever map those again. And you could just upload very, very, very quickly.
Oh, awesome. So basically I can create a template as I do one.
Exactly.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, no, I was always like, in my past life was just like, hey, does Yardi have a way for us to get this information in? And it was like, they haven't developed that template yet. So it's like, yep, you're just going to hand enter it in. So it's nice to be able to just self-serve yourself, right?
Yes.
And then you could see here, like as we build out, as we build out custom fields on the records during implementation, those are going to be exposed here for us to import information to. You're not like, well, you can only import to, predefined content. As you build it out to make it your own, you're going to be able to have access to it in these quick import files.
No, that's awesome. Thank you.
All right, so let me quickly jump into a different demo set because I think I turned off the gains losses on this particular one, but
take your time.
I was looking at
And
this
just
particular.
while I know, Amanda, we lose you in 15 minutes. Do you need to see anything from Michael and Susan's field services before you leave? Or
I don't think so, but I can always watch the demo.
You got it.
So, this is a realized exchange rate gain and loss for both our AR and our AP in this particular demo set for the month of November. So these are transactions, even though the source transaction happened in potentially different periods. So if we incurred an AP invoice in October, here was the source transaction rate during that time period. When we actually settled the transaction, here was the associated exchange rate. Here's the amount that we applied in USD, even though this was in British pounds and Canadian dollars. You could see the different currencies here. As we transact, our internal exchange rate service is going to perform those exchange rates, at the transaction date, and then associate the realized gain loss, when that transaction is settled. So does that make sense as far as, there's going to be an unrealized gain when we transact in the month of October that is saying, on October 2nd, the exchange rate was X. When we close the books on October 31st, it was Y. Here's your unrealized gain. And then once it settles, it'll become a realized gain where, it's going to look at that same information, reverse that unrealized transaction, and create a realized gain loss for you and your team. And if we go to the income statement on this one, so let me go to my financial income statement. This is going to be your subledger for, this 13,409 is our realized for the month, and we could see that here, the 13,409. I was going to show you unrealized loss in this one, but the transactions were so minimal, it didn't make sense. But it's the same report, just supporting this number.
And I've worked on a system before where, unfortunately, that like gain loss constantly changed throughout the year, even if the month was closed. Does this do that, or does it like once the month is closed, it's no longer tracking that realized gain or loss?
Yeah, it won't. Once that transaction settles, that's the gain loss.
Okay, perfect.
Well, Chris, I never turned down the ability to leave on perfect. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Paul and Bella. And where is my stop share here? There
What's
it
the
is.
best logical flow, being that your team's overlooking, you and Isabella are overlooking the whole project? Should we go through a little bit of the projects themselves before Michael and Susan talk about how they look in the field? What's the best flow for the remaining hour?
Yeah, I think taking a look at the project functionality within NetSuite, how ultimately the project's costed, that sort of thing. Those are pieces that we've added to help add some additional capability to NetSuite from a project job costing perspective. And I think just spend a few minutes there, and then we can hand it over to Michael and Susan to get into some of the, okay, what happens in the field now, and how does that impact the project? And then we can talk, and then Carol can get engaged after that. That makes sense.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to share my screen here, folks, and get everybody's video back where I can see you guys. All right. Perfect. So yeah, I'm just going to walk through a little bit of NetSuite. Jared is very focused on some of the overall functionality as far as navigation and the reporting and some of the financial capabilities. I'm going to double click down a little bit further into some of the project pieces. And I'll maybe just start real quick with just a high level slide. I like to put this up for different business models, different business types, but mainly for organizations like Furbish, it's project oriented business. So it's all about the project to cash process. And ultimately that can involve a sales process where you're going through leads, opportunities, creating estimates or bids, ultimately creating an order or a contract. And then there's this whole area from an operational perspective around projects and how do we manage the projects. Everything in green, these are things that NetSuite does out of the box. And then what we've done is added some other capabilities that get into project job costing. That gives you a little bit more granular visibility into job costing. And this is where we've built our organization's very focused on construction-oriented businesses and that sort of thing as well. So I'm going to talk about the project a little bit here, walk you through that, and then dive into, well, how do we actually cost against the project? How do we even see what's going on against the project? So I'll be balancing between some standard NetSuite functionality and what efficiency's done. From a user perspective, it's all transparent. It's all NetSuite. So everything we've done, we've built inside of the NetSuite system. It looks, operates, and acts just like NetSuite here. So with that, I'm going to jump into a home page on my demo account here. Again, this can be defined however you want it. Mine's pretty basic. It's a little bit project oriented. I can see projects behind schedule. I can have reminders giving me visibility into things I have to do, actions I have to take, or just visibility into what's happening as far as how many active project tasks, how many tasks are overdue, how many active projects, how many projects have I completed this year, all those types of things. All standard NetSuite reporting and alerting capabilities that can be provided there as well. Okay, and one of the areas here where we got into this whole area as far as searching information within the system, I can go ahead and search on anything within NetSuite from this global search bar. In this case, there's a couple little acronyms to use here. I'm looking for a project, so I just typed in project : and then I started typing in the name of a project, and I can actually bounce right into this project from here. So whether it be a project, whether it be a customer, whether it be an employee, whether it be like an actual invoice number from one of my subcontractors, I can find all of that from this search. And so that's where I'm drilling in here, and I actually brought that project up already. So here we have a project record within NetSuite called Morgan State University. It's through one of our customers called Douglas Development. So it's a project. This particular project, it's in progress. All of the different sections here and all of the different fields, some of these you might need, some of them you may not need. This is where we tailor NetSuite to you through what we call the implementation project. So we want a project to be defined how you want it to be defined. And you might have different project types that maybe track different pieces of information. I call these fields are all really attributes. So in this case here, my primary information, I have a project name and number. I've assigned a project manager. I know who my customer is. I see the status of it. If there's a PO that they've issued against this project, then we can track that here. It's just a piece of data that's entered as well. Everything else as I walk through here, my overview, so the system can auto-calculate work and that sort of thing if I want it to. Project dates, often very important as well. So we can get into different types of dates as far as when we're starting the project, the estimated end date, when we're calculating the end date to be the last time we snapped the baseline on this project, and anything else. So I've worked with some customers where they want more than just this. There might be some other dates. The dates are very important to define and place on a project, and then you can report on these as well. Okay. Some other information here, just classification. So this gets into some of the financial aspects that Jared was talking about. What company is this project associated with? Who is the customer? What type of project? If we define project types, in this case, maybe it's engineering, maybe it's a solar roof, maybe it's a green project that you're working on. So you can define those however you want as well within NetSuite too. Okay. So ultimately, I'm just scrolling down into this project record here, and you'll see a number of other tabs. Again, what we display here, it's completely up to you. Some users might need to see certain pieces of information, and other users might not. So that can also be defined. In this case, I'm able to see everything just as overall administrator of the system here. So I'm taking a look at all the financial elements of the system. How are we building this project? Is it based on milestone? It's tied to a billing schedule that can then trigger billing alerts for me when I've completed a certain milestone task and that sort of thing as well. Some other things that everything I've showed you so far is really standard NetSuite. This is just a standard project. Now I'm going to show you a couple things that Efficiency's built into the project as well. So this gets into our material job costing, or just let's just call it job costing for short, as far as how do we want to track job costs, and then what are the job cost categories. So this is where we've come in and said, okay, here's a number of predefined job costing categories where we can track revenue, where like this is ultimately what we call SO revenue, but this is really our original budget from a revenue perspective. Change orders that have come through on a project, so we can track all the change orders that are coming through if we need to. What have we actually invoiced to date? Where's our cost budget? What of our cost budget from an approval perspective as far as costs go, any committed costs, and then actual costs. In some case, I've added, and then in some cases you can add your own metric here. We were working with someone else. They had a negative change order or a deductive change order. So we just basically said, okay, well, we'll track that in another category here as well. All of these metrics, these are calculated, can be calculated automatically in the system based on how you are transacting in it. And we define what those metrics are with you as well. So these are some standard ones that we bring out of the box. There's also a series of other ones available here that I just haven't defined yet. So you have other categories you want to track against as well. So as far as the question that often comes up is, well, where are all these numbers coming from? So I'll just drill into a little bit further. And that's the story I'm going to tell now. So I'm just going to go into our periodic job costing. And what this tab does, it'll show you all the different job cost categories here are columns. And and then as far as the rows, they're based on accounting period. Since we're in an ERP system, you get to see this at a more granular level. So I can see it at an overall project level. Here's what's happening for each job cost category at an accounting period level. So I can see here's my overall revenue budget. Here's my change order. Here's a series of change orders that have happened. So I can see all that here as well. And these numbers are basically captured by how we have them defined within the system. But ultimately the sum of these columns will equal what I'm looking at over here. And I think it was Maureen that was asking earlier, hey, how do I report on all this stuff? So all of this information is reported on a project level. I just happen to be looking at a single project. If I want to report, if I have 100 projects or 1,000 projects running, or I want to have visibility into that, then we can report on exactly this type of data overall as well. And I'll show you a little bit of that in a couple minutes here as well. Okay. So we have our job costing. Here's where we're performing against the project. Here's where all the costs are being collected from an accounting period perspective. And then, oh, well, where are these coming from? Well, in this case, we can get into how are we actually tracking transactions on the project itself. So in this example here, I have a related record tab. I was on the financial tab looking at all our job cost performance metrics. Here on our related records tab here, I can see all the transactions that are tagged to this project. They can be purchase orders, they can be customer invoices, they can be vendor or subcontractor invoices. I can have visibility into them here. And even on this page, I can get a summary as far as what's going on. So for example, on 7/21, I had a purchase order. Vendor subcontractor name was called All Steel. Here's the amount. If you actually were using multi-currency, you could see what the amount was in your base currency and then the foreign currency. It was a purchase order. Here's the status of that purchase order. So I can see exactly what's happening there. From a status perspective, it's partially received. But if I wanted to take a look at that, then anything that looks like a link here or a hyperlink, I can then drill into it. So I can say, well, let's drill into that purchase order, grab a little more detail as far as what's happening here. So I'll just dive into this. And what the purchase order will have on it is essentially what we call a header and then a series of lines. So as I'm going through here, you'll see that, okay, we're going to see that there's a date. We'll see that's a purchase order. We'll see there's a vendor. And so when I come in here, we'll see, okay, here's my vendor All Steel. Here's a received by date. Here's the date of the purchase order. And then in this case, there might be a series of items that were tied to this purchase order as well. In this case, we just had one line. Maybe we purchased some mechanical material for them, tied to a work code or a job code, tied to an item that we might, something we might procure multiple times. We see what's happening from a receiving, billing, and quantity order perspective. Ultimately, you can get like three-way or two-way match here, depending on how we set the system up for you. as well. Key thing to note though, there's a project. Here's our project right here. So that where this is where we're tagging to our Morgan State University project. So that's not only how I have visibility into that this transaction is on the project from where it just came from, but also we look at purchase orders in this environment are defined as committed costs. We've committed to spend $6,500 in a little bit with this particular vendor. So that will ultimately, if I go back into my project here, and if I go back into my financials, we'll see that this is ultimately what's going to show up under my committed cost number. So when I enter in a purchase order, my job costing system will run. It'll know when it happened, how it happened, and it'll place it in the corresponding cost category here too. Okay. Just want to pause real quick, see if anybody has any questions. I don't want to get too detailed for you, but I want to make sure I'm detailed enough to ensure that I'm meeting your requirements there.
So, can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can.
And,
Looks like my video looks like it froze. I'm not sure why, so I'm just gonna restart.
We hear you loud and clear, Paul.
It's
Yeah.
on our, we can see you, it's moving on our side. I just wanted to let you guys know that
Oh, okay.
Maureen and Amanda have jumped off the call, so.
Okay, no problem. I think I must have called out Maureen, but she might have already been out, so
Yep.
Hopefully she listens. All right.
I'll share the
Okay.
recording.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. So here's the project, and really what I did, I just walked through a project. We have transactions that are attached to this project. We then are able to cost those transactions against this project. And then the key thing is anything else you want to track on the project completely reportable against as well. I'm just going to flip back. I'm going to close this out. And maybe also you'll notice here, and this gets into this whole concept of dashboards. This little icon here, this takes me to a project dashboard. So I can look at this information in more of a dashboard format. So I can come in, another tab here that I just preloaded this thing. So I can see, oh, what's happening from a project perspective. Here's all the tasks that are associated with this project. If I want to see a Gantt chart, I can have visibility of what that looks like in the project. Some other project information that we covered at the high level of the project, and then maybe some other indicators as far as things that I have to do, or the system's notifying me of something that's happening in the project as well. So just another same information, just looking at it through a different lens, if you will, as well. All right, so I'm just going to go back to the homepage. I'm just going to show you a couple of reports just to give you a sense for what's possible here as well. So I have a number of reports. I think Jared mentioned you can navigate to a report tab here, but ultimately you can also define and put any of those reports
Paul?
as shortcut. Oh, yes, Chris.
I think Doug had a question.
Oh, is there a question? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Doug.
Yeah, I was trying to break in there, but I was going to wait for another moment. And this might be going through but I'm kind of looking at this, and obviously this is a lot of information, a lot of stuff that's put in there. Just curious the amount of upfront effort is required to kind of set up all these. Well, not necessarily set up all these links, but all these links are taking you to data that's been input. So as far as kind of our process, and don't let me lead you too far down a path where it might be covered later on, but at time of when a job is awarded, we have an estimate. That estimate, information should already kind of be in here. What we're the materials, the costs, total contract stuff, and how we're doing it now is that's in a different program. So we're sort of entering that information into QuickBooks and in other areas, stuff like that. So how much is this just sort of top level is kind of integrated, where when an estimate is awarded and approved and it becomes a job, how much of that financial information just sort of link and carry over to the baselines of some of these reports and some of these other pages that we're looking at?
Right. So part of that, there's kind of two two components to that. One comes down to data and what are we putting into the system and when. And then once it's in the system, how do I get to see or report on it, or how do I get visibility into it, right? And so part of it's really the implementation process as far as what we take you through to essentially define those business processes. So for example, an estimate is created here, and then it needs to go to here, like, and ultimately, we'll take it, we'll want to grab the estimate from the source system. As far as how we get it there, that's a question that comes up often. In many cases with estimates, it's just an import. So you might create an estimate using a takeoff tool, or in many cases, we see Excel used a lot of times to generate an estimate, especially if it's very specific. NetSuite has a place where that can be held, and then we can ultimately import that in. So in this example here, I have a series of estimates. This one's my original one for this project. These others are change orders. So what's going to happen is, for example, in that case, we have an estimate come in, and it ultimately, I'm just waiting for it to paint here, but ultimately it comes in. Here's what the estimate looks like. And on that estimate, we have things like, for each line, we have our work code or job code defined, what the item is. Here's the estimated costs. Here's the estimated revenue based on that. So then this is going to then light up our reporting based on this data as well. So it comes down to, not to go back to this slide, but these are the things. This is very high level, but these are the process type steps that we define through an implementation. There's different processes within your organization as far as what does the sales process look like? What does the project creation process look like? There's a number of financial processes as well. And so this is where we'll define this. So we can say, well, here's the estimate. Let's take that estimate. Let's import it in from another system or source. And then we can take that estimate and do different things with it. We can create a project with a work breakdown structure associated with it. And then we're into a project, and then we can cost against it as well. So maybe a little bit of a long answer for a short question, but hopefully that gave you some context there, Doug.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the time. Just obviously trying to minimize and eliminate a lot of redundancy of data entry from, that's already kind of in there, and just sort of putting in the system so that it can be driven down into and accessed at other functionality too. So thanks for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the data entry, we want to avoid that as much as possible, entering in data in multiple systems. That just takes time, creates errors. If we can streamline any of that process, that's ultimately what we strive to do. Okay. All right, so let me just jump in. I just wanted to jump into a couple of reports here. I'm just going to open a couple here. So here's like projects in process, a very basic flat report. I want to know what's in process. So here on my home dashboard, I had this shortcut list. I can simply click on this link, takes me to a report, so I can see projects in process. You'll see here I have 26. Here's a list of them all. I can scroll through. I can go view anything I want to. If I wanted to look at a project list in a different status, I can grab those as well. So statuses, you can define whatever a project status list looks like for Furbish. You can define that however you want. Okay. The other one, this one's a little bit more, around the project cost reporting. So project profitability, cost to complete. This is specifically to deal with all the metrics that we already looked at on the project record itself. In this example here, we have a series of customers with projects. So if you have repeat customers that come back and do another project with you, then you can ultimately have a complete visibility into, for example, Douglas Development. We have a number of projects with them. Track each project individually here as far as the contract value, change orders, committed costs, actual costs, plan time. We have forecasted profit, actual profit, cost to complete type information here. So at your fingertips, if you even want to go so far, and you'll notice there's a bit of a nesting here. If I just want to look at Douglas Development as the customer, I can see what's happening overall versus Douglas Development on the project by project basis. So pretty good insight. This is all basically populated through the project job costing that we built into the project record itself here. Okay. And this is just one example of a report. And then you can get into other things where maybe you want to look at a work, like if you're looking at, oh, I want to look at it from a, not just a project cost category perspective, but I want to look at it from a work code or a job code perspective. Then here, and then we can come in and look at, let me just grab one of my projects. I'm just going to search on this one. So this is a search that's pretty dynamic where I can come in and say, well, I just want to look at the Hayden project and I want to see what's happening on this Hayden project by work code. And then I can see here's my work code number. Here's my, is it labor, subcontractor, material, or something else from we call it the smell categories. And then where my budget is, budget revenue, change orders, total budget, cost to complete, etc. So just another level deeper to look at a specific project by work code profitability as well. Okay. And I think I want to stop here and pass it on to Michael and team, but just want to also pause, see if there's any other questions from the group. Okay. All right, perfect. So Michael, I'll turn it over to you and we'll go from there.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm gonna actually, just because of time, pass it right on to Susan. She's really gonna be the star of the show today. But when it comes to our solution, make sure you're asking questions. Like we said last time, we can add fields, we can remove fields, we can really make it personalized to you without customization. That's the beauty of being built on the platform. If you need certain information out in the field and it's not on the project record or something, we can add a custom field and expose it out in the field. If you need certain data types, whatever it might be, call that out on the demo because the solution is really flexible. And remember, naming is flexible in NetSuite. So if we're calling it, a ticket or a job, we're going to make sure that it's your nomenclature. But with that being said, I'll pass it on over to Susan.
Sorry, couldn't find the mute button. Hi, everyone. Is everyone seeing my screen okay?
We can.
Dashboard? Yeah. Okay, excellent. So I'm not going to spend a ton of time here, but certainly ask the questions. Really what I want to show you is the depth of, the field service of where Paul finished off on the project task. How do we assign those to resources? And what does that look like from a scheduling perspective and the mobile experience, right? How are we capturing that data and really digitalizing it without having anybody re-enter data from one system to another? So keep in mind the same great dashboards we saw from Jared and from Paul earlier, all that reporting. You're going to have access to all of that same on the service side. And depending on your role will determine what information you can get. So for example, if I look here, I can look at unapproved expenses for projects, being able to run real time as people are entering expenses on jobs, on projects, understanding that cost, which really leads back to Paul's, P&L ability to have all of that in the project record. So what I'm going to do is everyone okay with the dashboards? Do you want me to go in more detail about that? No.
I think we're good in that regard.
Yeah.
Amber, were you going to chime in?
Yeah.
I just wanted to, Mindy and Claudia, the stewardship maintenance team that's on the call. This is going to be their area. So I just wanted to bring attention to that.
Right, we're tuned in. Thanks.
So is that you would like Susan to touch on overall dashboard before we get to the mobile look and feel?
So I'm sorry. So you wanted to, if there is a little bit more on the overall dashboard, you just want to give us 2 minutes on it, that would be great.
Is that possible, Susan?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Sure. So what we're looking at here, and again, based on what you have access to within NetSuite, will determine, what reports I can put on my dashboard and what elements I'm looking at. But just to give you an idea here, I'm looking at daily projected total amount invoicing trend. So, that's going to help me on projects and how am I invoicing based on that. I'm looking at unapproved expenses on jobs. So, right from here, I can go in and drill into the project, understand what those expenses are. It's, the record is live. Other things, what I find our customers utilize all the time within NetSuite are the reminders. So you can configure your own reminders, but they're more of that proactive versus reactive mechanism that says, when people are out in the field and jobs or project tasks have been completed, let me know or update the project record so that we can go ahead and bill for that or recognize revenue for that. These reminders can be unique to each of your dashboards. So you can see here I have 279 customers that are ready to be billed based on the process that those sales orders or service orders went through. Down here, this would be interesting for you. You're on site at the end of the project. You might have inspections you send someone out to do, but it's failed inspection. Maybe there was flooding on the rooftop or on the living wall. So, immediately as things in the mobile, a team lead can say this failed inspection, and immediately someone in the back office is going to get updated here on their reminders. So again, lots of really powerful reporting here. For example, top 5 time by projects, if I drill into that, it's a live graph, right, within NetSuite. So standard out of the box, I can see, who's entered time against that, what is that information? And again, that ability to drill all the way down to the transaction level of Susan's time entry here.
With next service and the field service piece being included in this bundle, we're also going to come with an additional 45 field service specific save searches, reports, KPIs that you can then take. So similar to what Jared showed earlier on your reports, you'll get in another 45 reports that are specific to the field services. That could be a lot of the ones that we see frequently are first time fix rates. So for your break fix calls going out, and break fix obviously is just your service calls that we're going out, adding a new plant to a wall because one died, whatever it might be. All that's going to be given to you day one, and then you can take that and personalize it too. So just wanted to call that out as well.
And I actually have a question about that. So that is how much support from your end do you help us build those out? Like we could,
Yep.
form what it is that we're interested in looking at, and then but it's so new, like we'll need some guides. So just kind of curious on how all that works.
With our deployment, we give a overview of it, all the different reports and everything. And then we ask you specifically, which one do you need and want? Which report do you need and want? And we build it out with you hand in hand, explaining why we're doing this, why we're doing that, kind of that consultative approach, but really going deep into one specific report. The most common is always a deep dive into the profitability report. So building out a profitability report that has all of the specific fields that you want and need to understand.
Great. So you're saying you do the deep dive in the first report, but then the others you sort of give us, and then we build out the other 44.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, they're already built, but you can.
But you're going to be using the same technology that you're going to be building your financial P&Ls with, that you're going to get a whole bunch of standard NetSuite reports. Like for financials, you're going to get a whole bunch of standard reports for projects, and next service, the field service, has its own reporting capabilities. But certainly the training and implementation of reporting within NetSuite, you will be able to move quickly through that, right? It will be covered in all of those elements of utilizing the same tool set.
Sounds good. And what does training, look like? Is it like an 8-hour day? Is it, twice a week for 3 weeks or shorter periods, or what is generally for the team overall? How does that look?
It's typically use case training. So based on your role, you'll get training and it's also during the deployment. So when we're deploying something, we're configuring it, we're training, going back and forth. It's a very iterative process, but then we also provide recordings at the end and live trainings for that as well. So, and that's specifically on the field service piece. I think Isabella, at the end of today's call, or I guess we could cover it off quick too, but I think we're going to dive a lot deeper into what comes with the delivery and training and everything else. But
Yeah, Claudia, just to give you briefly, we work with the field service team on a lot of our construction projects where we're handling more of the native NetSuite or the financials and the projects piece, and then they handle the field service. But we work very much hand in hand in parallel throughout the project, whether it's requirements, testing, and training. But same with what Michael said, the training will come in multiple ways, you know, with getting your users in the system, testing, that kind of serves as training as well, getting used to using NetSuite. But then towards the end, once we're getting ready for go live, we'll have dedicated additional training sessions with the users. We'll have, you know, by projects, by field service, by financials, like so that we only have the right audience on the team. And then we'll record those sessions for your future use as well. So that will be for Furbish to own and keep for like new employees in the future as well. But I'll get into the overall implementation methodology if we have time towards the end today as well.
Thank you. I just have one more quick question, and if you don't have an answer, that's fine. But so what is the app for a company our size and for what you're seeing? What's the average implementation to go live time period?
Yeah, so for a project this size, we're estimating about 4 to 6 months for the implementation. Usually the range really comes from just the scheduling aspects. We can move quicker if we get people's availability and the data entry and all that good stuff. But yeah, 4 to 6 months is the average.
Okay, thank you.
And Isabella, can you just touch on, there's no programming requirements or anything on the Furbish side, right? Your team is taking care of all that. It's really their participation is explaining their business and what they'd like to see in the system.
Correct. Yes. Well, we'll really just want to understand, you know, your business processes and create those requirements based off of that. And then as well as helping us with just testing out the system and making sure it's running as Furbish would need to run, you know, your operations post go live. So we really emphasize the testing aspect in the implementation project.
Perfect. Thank you for that, Bella. And Claudia, more than most of my clients, I believe your team would appreciate that there's so many variables with a project and a go live because, you know, there's holidays, there's, you know, sometimes you might want to take some time to digest what the vision should look like versus just giving a quick answer to Isabella and Paula's team. But that is a very strong timeline that Isabella shared. I'm sure you can appreciate it. And testament to the fact that a lot of this comes out of the box.
Great, thanks.
No, that's
So,
great.
Thank you,
So,
Susan.
yeah. Just quickly, I'm just going to quickly cover a couple of things. I know, again, but please feel free to ask questions. Again, you know, that collaborative solution, everything's in one place. So I'm using the same customer record that Paul was using, that Jared was using. And you'll notice down below, all I have is the field service module has been turned on. I've licensed it. And now I can start to control the assets and the projects that are going on at that site under that customer record. So in this case, I just have a customer and a site and one project going on, but I could have multiple sites for that university, multiple sites within the campus, and multiple projects going on at different buildings within there with different types of projects. But I'm just keeping it simple that we did last time. So I can just right click with NetSuite, lots of great tips and tricks there, you know, open it in a new tab. And now what I can look at is the lowest level. So I'm looking at this site, and what I can see here are everything that's going on at that site. So for Morgan State University, I can see the project. I can see that we have a preventative maintenance. The top line here, it's a PM monthly, you know, the date range. And again, the end dates are going to be important because now I can start to look at, you know, ending expiry, pulling those dates into safe searches and having them on someone's dashboard to let them know, hey, hang on, that project, that maintenance we need to go out and do, that year is up or what have you. So just all within one record, really simple to get to, really to see exactly what's going on at that particular location with all of your projects. So native NetSuite with the field service application managing the assets at that site. And then really from there, whether you're doing project assets or you're creating a service call to go out and fix something at one of those locations, or going out and doing your annual maintenance or preventative maintenance schedule, it's going to be utilized on the dispatch board here we're seeing now. So just a couple of things I'll draw your attention to on the left-hand side are my resources. And the reason I'm looking at the North region is because over to the right under people filters, I've selected North. So you're going to be able to break your resources down by project region, who's working on what. That way you can also use skill levels. So if you need, someone that has the ability to be a crew lead, and I need to look at jobs, that a crew lead's available to do, I can certainly start to break down the resources on the left-hand side. You'll define the regions, you'll define, what categories those resources sit within based on how you want to schedule them out. But the key thing for you is, we're seeing the jobs for Susan Thompson here on the dispatch board. So a couple of things for your stewardship division. The group here on the phone, we can do multiple jobs in a day. We can have jobs that go full days. We can have jobs that go full weeks, right? With different crews on them. So just want to, again, refresh your, that view that we can have multiple jobs, people doing multiple things on the same day. A couple of other things, Susan calls in sick. I can just grab this job and drag it. Pavel's on PTO, so I'm going to just scroll up here and give it to Benoit. I can save that. I can make changes. I can do the same thing. I can change Big Bear Express, which you can see goes over 2 days here. And I can save that, which then would notify those people of the changes, or I don't like that and I can cancel it. So scheduling board, dispatch board also allows you to change those job tasks around really quickly, as things are happening on different projects. A couple of other things, what you can see here, we're looking at Susan. I'm just going to right click on it and you can see that there's a team for this particular job, right? This service order that project has that needs to go out and happen. So Benoit and Susan are the team. So when Susan goes to log into that job, she'll be entering time for Benoit herself, or Benoit can just have time entry on his own. But we'll cover that in just a minute when we get to the mobile. So just really important, I can see that I can make, and I can also make crews. So for example, just by holding down my control key, highlighting that job, I can drag that up to Benoit and say, Ben, I also want you to be part of that crew. And down here, I want contractor team 1 to also be part of that. So that could be up to 8 guys, girls, depending what your teams look like. And again, they would be notified and it would be displayed on their mobile what the team and crew looks like. Also down below here, we have unassigned jobs. So unassigned jobs might be, as work is coming in, or, project tasks. So over here, when Paul was showing you the project work breakdown structure, I know who I want to assign the sprinkler water installation task to, but I might not know who I want to do the installation for the patio pavers yet on that. So, I'm going to leave it unassigned. And then when I come into my scheduler, I can just drag and drop those jobs onto the board, right? And just drag them up there. And then again, make changes. I can go down here. And a couple of things you'll notice, the color coding. So the color coding is going to be unique to you again. I'm looking at it by priority of job. So I have high as pink, but I could change that to red. What I often find our customers looking at is by case type. So by work order, the job someone's going out to do, and again, we can change these different colors within here, and the job board would then display it. So we can see I changed that installation job over here, the site visit, to blue. Okay, and then I can save those changes or just go ahead and cancel them. So 2 things. Is everyone okay with the schedule board? Any questions there?
This looks good. Lauren, or Tom, do you have any specific questions right now on this? It's very
I don't have any-
flexible.
Yeah, I don't have any questions right now. It looks pretty flexible, like you said, like we'd be able to kind of manipulate it to be the view that would best suit our needs. I don't see any issues or concerns or anything like that.
Great.
Actually, I do have one question.
Sure.
There's status and there's job type. Is that correct? Did you have both of those abilities to kind of code?
Yeah, so I'm looking at priority, status, task type. So the activity, the job I've sent someone out on, and the work order type itself. Yep.
So if a job, so we need the ability to mark a job confirmed because all of our appointments have to be scheduled. So they have to be either just on the job, on the board, and then when they get confirmed, we need to see that. But we'd also like to simultaneously see if it's just a routine maintenance visit, if it's a system repair, if it's planting plants. So I just want to make sure we can.
So right down here, yeah, you definitely would be able to define the different task types.
Perfect. Thanks.
Okay. So let's just take a look now. Again, a really great feature of the solution. You know, I'm in the office. Susan calls and says, my mobile's not working. You know, what's going on? I can, from the back office, just by right-clicking on her on the dispatch board and emulate her mobile. So I can see everything she's doing, what jobs are assigned to her at any time. But from Susan's perspective, when she logs in the morning, she's going to log in. That's when I start to track her on GPS. I understand, you know, where she is in case I want to assign her other jobs. But when she logs out, you know, nobody's tracking her. So that's how we're getting the GPS coordinates from her. But we're device agnostic. So whether it's an iPad or an iPhone or an Android, completely up to you. We have customers using lots of different devices. But I just want to give you an idea here of what it looks like. So, you know, I would log in and then I would see, you know, and you'll determine how many jobs the technician will see in a day. So you can see here I have, you know, a week's worth of jobs. So, and I'm going out a week here, being able to look at all of those different jobs. And I'm letting them see jobs that have also been completed that week. You'll define that in implementation time, really easy to configure that of how much you want them to see. Are there any questions on that, on the device mechanism itself?
Susan, can you talk more about the ability to punch, you know, a foreman or a crew leader punching in their crew versus people punching in individually?
Absolutely. If you don't mind, I'm going to go back to my laptop version, or you know what my tablet will look like, just because it's more real estate for me to show you with. But yeah, absolutely. Let's go through the actual job itself, right? So we looked at this job. It was assigned to Susan for coal roofing for the living roof there. You know, we had all of the details from the project on there. Susan was assigned to it. So now it's on Susan's mobile. And, you know, it's telling her the date and the time. It's medium. She's going to click on that. And now everything that was entered on that project for that project task record, nobody's rekeying that. The technician is receiving this the way it was entered in within NetSuite, and we're exposing those fields for them. That's what the field service is doing. So we have the, you know, information regarding the project. Remember, it was the water installation we were taking a look at. And then all I'm going to do is hit start. Now, a couple of things before I get going here. All of these tabs are completely up to you, because maybe when you're doing an installation of the living wall or living rooftop, you know, you might want different information than versus, you're just sending someone out to repair a sprinkler on the wall or the roof. Okay, agree there, everyone?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So again, I'm doing a project, so it's the installation, it's much more detailed, but I do want to show you, I'm going to show you two things. So first, I'm going to show you entering time for team members, right? So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to enter labor, and I'm just going to go ahead and hit start. But I can also select team members, right, that I'm clocking in for. There are multiple things we can do. This is just a generic way to allow a team lead to enter time for himself or herself and team members. There's different things we can do with that, but the key thing is by doing it this way, what if Dana didn't show up today, but I had all of them clocked in at once? So again, it's just whether if we're taking that information to payroll, not us, but we're going to give you those proper hours. How much maintenance is it to go in and unclock everybody and get that Dana wasn't in today? So that's really one real value add of having them going in. I know it might be a bit long if there's 10 crew members to do that, but the option's there, and it's part of our standard statement of work. We've done it for lots of clients. And then the other option, and I'm going to jump to another job, so I hope I'm not confusing anyone, but I'm
Can
just
I just ask a quick question on that one?
Sure.
So what would ultimately, I think we would like is to be able to, any foreman in any department in the morning could click in, can clock in, and then as their team arrives, they can look down that list of 10 or 20 people and select their crew. And then as they're going through the day job to job, continue to clock those members for that day. But then tomorrow, maybe they've selected some others. Does that sound like something that would be possible?
Right. So I think that's what I'm trying to get at here. So if I had a crew working on this, which we can see over here on the mobile, when we look at that job, when I click on the time, here is the team that's assigned to that job. So I can go ahead and clock them in. They've arrived. Yeah. But the reason I'm showing you this is because I heard that they could have multiple jobs per day, and there could be different crews on each of those jobs. Like they could be part of different crews.
Right. So pretty much, with little exception, they're going to be with the same crew for the day. The different technicians will be with one foreman for the day.
Okay.
So that's where we're going. Once in a while, maybe somebody needs to break off and leave, somewhere else. But generally, we just need for the day to just kind of clock in and clock out the same set of people throughout the course of the day.
Okay. So you can have an administration task where you clocked in the crew and, for the day did an attendance record for the day. But if you wanted the actual time, because remember what I'm doing here is I'm calculating the cost of that crew based on the time. Right. So I still want somebody to start and stop the time and clock people in. Whether we do it through a script at implementation, the professional services team would clock all of the crew in. If so, Susan says, at this job, Dana, both Dana's and Benoit were there. Whatever time I enter for myself, it all is the same. Right? We can change that. Like that's part of implementation. You have to configure it. But the other option you would have would be, a very simple user, which would have them just clock in themselves, right? So they just get to the job, hit start, hit stop, and then that would all roll into that time, to that project task. So you would have that roll up of all the people on that task that time was collected on. But Mike, I'm going to let you jump in there. I know you and I have talked about this. And
yeah, one of the benefits and I know the request, and we can do it either way. So we can have the crew lead do it themselves, or we could have individuals that are assigned to those jobs because the reason that we typically see the individuals clocking in for themselves is we can always route the approvals in NetSuite to get approved. But if your teams and crews change day in and day out, you want to see who's going to be at what job and have the flexibility of basically taking that calendar space on the schedule board. For Claudia today, she's going to be with Chris's team, and Chris is the crew lead. But then tomorrow she's going to be on Jared's, and then you can really help make it as efficient as possible for the crews that are changing with the schedule board. So if the crews don't change, we typically see the way that we showed initially. But if the crews do change, that's when we typically recommend that we just provide a really simple user experience for those mobile users, where they see the job location, start and stop, and then that feeds to the cost of the job as well. The project manager has everything else, inventory related, reporting, whatever else you might be putting in on the field. So we do have flexibility. We're just telling you kind of what we see and best practices are.
Yeah. So you can see here, Susan, this crew here, if I right click, remember Benoit and Susan are doing that job at Big Ben. They're also working together here, but now Benoit is working with Diana on this particular job. So, I can drag and drop those crews too, right? I can say, no, they called in sick. I now need to find some other crew to go to. And then it's going to update the mobile so that when the foreman goes to log in, they're going to know who is on that job as part of the team. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly cover a couple of things. Again, everything you see here, we're doing the installation there. So it's a lot of forms we're looking at, but you can determine. So, site location, I've arrived. Yep, I'm at the right place. Job history. So we're going to see the last demonstration we did, the service that I went out to do. So we can see here, install at Morgan State. There were the pictures that I took last time during the demonstration. So all of that historical data, every project has, everything that's, come in contact with this particular project. Now the techs or install people out in the field have access to that on the mobile device, right? So I can go in and contact anyone and see what took place. Just a couple of other things. Job checklist. So this is, that checklist versus installation of the sprinklers might look different than the checklist for installation of electrical lights. Depending on how that goes, again, during implementation time, you would define what those checklists are based on the type of work you're doing. But again, taking pictures, right? Before and after pictures of what those living walls look like. And when I show you the end result of this it's all back in NetSuite, right? Like I'm not going between two systems. So this service report is being digitalized real time, and that record in NetSuite is being updated real time. So parts and inventory, again, I could allow, people in the field as they're doing work, what they consumed, what part of the job has been fulfilled. So this would be the sales order within NetSuite. I could expose that if I wanted to. I don't have to. I could also consume additional things when I'm out in the field for those techs. Just additional pictures, again, creating expense reports on the mobile device. So being able to, take a picture and have an expense report created automatically, tagging the jobs and the projects so that the tech didn't need to do that. And then the key thing really, again, at the end of the day, I'm just going to go back, hit my end time. I'm going to save that. And now notice the complete button is available. So job completion, I'm just going to say, the living wall. And I'm going to get the customer's signatures. So Ben's going to sign, Susan's going to sign. I'm going to say, okay, again, you'll configure this at implementation time. It's part of the process. If you don't like 2 signatures, you only want 1, or if you don't want any, that's fine. So we'll go back. I'm going to hit the complete button. I could create things like follow-up tasks while I'm out in the field. That looks like it's leaking. Maybe someone else should come out and take a look at it. You can certainly proactively, again, do that and have it come back up here, right? And update your reminders. So, you know, things that are happening in the field, things that have failed inspection when the tech was out there, updating real time in the back office. So a couple of things happened here. If we look at it, it graded out on the dispatch board. So it told operations immediately, job is done, Susan's completed it. Now I might want to schedule her for other things, you know, if she had availability. But out of the box, what we did is we created a service report. So just like we talked about, you know, the safe searches and the reporting capabilities within NetSuite, you know, this is the same tool that you're using to create your invoice layouts, your customer statements. So again, you know, that learning curve will be minimal, be able to do this, but you'll just define, you know, what fields do you want to expose for a service report? And you can see here, you know, it automatically tagged all the details. Here was my checklist, my before and after pictures, and the signatures. Now, you might have, you know, we have customers that have 5 pages. We have some customers that have 1. Again, just showing you that nobody had to recreate this, right? And then the key thing is when I come back here to, and I say, you know, well, what happened to that, you know, back office aspect of that job once the technician it updated the job, completed. And here is the real-time data that was just transferred. And if I go into, you know, where is that service report we just created and I click on it, there's all the information directly back in that record.
So question here, you first showed that in a PDF format, so I think, is that right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and could those images have captions under them describing what happened, or is there any, no, they can't, okay.
Yeah, you'll define, remember,
Yes.
back on the mobile, absolutely, during implementation time, I just had a really simple couple of check boxes and 2 pictures. You could have notes, memos, and again, if they're on their mobile device, they'll just hold the microphone down and they can dictate lots of notes, right? Lots of detail there that you can decide, you know, are you sending that to the customer or not?
And do I recall you saying that you could preload distribution groups for this to be distributed for the customer? Or can email with that report get sent from this module, or?
Yeah, we out of the box will send it to your customers if you want. That's what a lot of our customers like. Sometimes they want it to go through a QA process to make sure there's no spelling errors. So we'll just make it a report on your dashboard and then you can send it out yourself.
That's what we do right now. We have
Yep.
QA. Thanks.
Yeah. Great.
Awesome.
So that is really the full loop. From that perspective, Mike, did you want me to touch on anything else, or anyone else in the group? Was there anything else to touch on right now?
Mindy, do you have questions? I think it's really important, Mindy in payroll, get her questions.
Yes. So Susan, can you, and if you have a plan to touch on this, that's great, but I would like to see what happens with that time after it's been recorded from a time and attendance and payroll perspective. Where does it go? And is there a report that I can use at the end of each pay week so I can see how much time each individual has? And then secondarily, if we had to go the route of granting access to our technicians, I don't think that we do, but I'm curious to know what that looks like in terms of licensing, and is there a licensing fee for each individual?
Hey,
The second answer, the quick answer is yes. We've got 2 different tiers of licensing, which we can talk about later. But then right here, you can see that Susan's going into the time card. So all that time is going right to the employee record in NetSuite and then can be exported for payroll or processed however you want it to look.
Michael, is this a natural segue then for Carol to go through payroll?
Yeah,
Yeah,
actually, I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Perfect. Hey, Carol, how are you?
I will stop sharing.
You got it.
There I am. Hi, it's on mute. Good.
Hey, Carol, just real fast in terms of just a quick sync on this, since this is kind of our goal on this, and Amber, looking for your guidance. Like, we were now going to do a little bit of that Q&A on payroll, but are we good on Jared's finances, Paul's projects, and Michael and Susan's field services, the big three?
Yep, I think we're good to go on those.
Okay, and since I know, and Carol, do you have a hard stop in the next
I do
9
not.
minutes?
I do not.
Okay. Anything we need to cover? If we do have the hard stop, we can go over just a smidge. But we kind of wanted to really do like a Q&A about payroll and understand exactly your Carol, what was it, prevailing wage we wanted to understand a little bit more about?
Yes, exactly. And, just cover a couple other key questions, but, definitely want to cover prevailing wage. If we maybe just start there then?
Okay, so on that note, with the wider team on this, looking for some guidance from Furbish, Amber, Claudia, if we should, if we need to excuse anybody or anything else we need to touch on since we have the wider team on this? Or is this a topic for everybody?
I'm gonna stay, but maybe some others can drop off if they like.
Okay. Well, if anyone does have to drop off, I just want to thank you for your time and consideration today. And I hope, even though you saw 3 distinct solutions, it was all that same look and feel. These are all built on NetSuite. These aren't 2 applications sending data back and forth. You're on one NetSuite instance that's being configured for different uses. But again, you're in a single application. I just want to thank everybody for their time and consideration here. And Amber, do you want to maybe tee us off on just what you want to cover in payroll and some of the questions that you had? Because you did do some research on your own on it. And this is your first chance to talk to a payroll expert like Carol.
I actually want to defer to Mindy because she needs to have her questions answered.
You had told me that, yes. Hi, Mindy.
Hi.
Anything you'd like to kind of tee us up with before we get into some Q&A? If you want to tell us a little bit about payroll today at Furbish.
Okay, sure. So our current process involves all of our time gets recorded in LMN, and it gets recorded by job, and it's recorded by the foreman. So whoever the foreman is on the job clocks everyone in to that job. They clock everyone into each task associated with that job, which may include some drive time to the job. So we do clock that information separately from actual on-site time, which is really important from a prevailing wage perspective, because drive time is not included in prevailing wage. And so my job then at the end of each pay week, after everything is approved, is to pull some reports and send them off to our third-party processor.
And who is that processor today, Mindy?
It's PNI iSolved. So Payroll Networks is what PNI stands for. And it's on the iSolved platform. I review the time, I review the information that's being submitted, make sure that everything has been approved, everything looks correct. All of our wage information is loaded into the PNI system, and so they upload our time data and send some reports back to me for review. So payroll register, payroll summary. I'm reviewing all of that information. I'm confirming that people actually have time off when time off has been requested, and then processing the payroll for payment by midweek.
Okay. Is every job that you're doing, Mindy, prevailing wage?
No.
Or is it, what percentage are?
I would say it's a pretty small percentage overall.
Okay.
But when it is prevailing wage, it's super important that we get it right. We pay people like they're supposed to be paid according to the wage document that we receive. And we're recording those hours correctly, and then a report gets produced that I can then put into whatever system is required for that particular prevailing wage job. So currently just wrapped up one for Morgan State. And it was prevailing wage, and all of that information had to be loaded into the Maryland Department of Labor prevailing wage or certified payroll portal. It is a very manual process, so I would love to not be so manual with that. The reports are being generated, but I'm literally having to enter all of that data into their system on a line by line basis for each employee for every pay week. So it's very time intensive. There is an opportunity to create an uploadable file, but P&I system does not have that ability currently.
Okay. And so with the prevailing wage, so are you sending in the certified payroll? Do you forms? Is that something you have as well, certified payroll?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the reason I'm asking, if it's a limited number, so we do have a partner that we're working with for this, but it's kind of still, it's under construction. It's not ready in the sense of being automated. But it can, we could discuss, it's possible to do it with CSV files uploading right now until it is a more automated system. And that's why it's something that we are aware of as a need, and it's being worked on.
Yeah, ultimately a CSV file right now would really, really make my life a good bit easier, and the time constraints, it would eliminate a lot of those time constraints. Because as I said, I'm currently getting the reports from P&I, and then I'm having to pull some additional information and some data and to add that information onto a spreadsheet, where I then use that spreadsheet along with the wage report that I've gotten from P&I and put that information manually into the system for the Department of Labor here in Maryland. We have some other certified requirements on some service jobs, which are much easier to manage in that we get the reports and then we are emailing those reports to a specific email address. There's no manual entry required, just so long as we have the data correct.
Okay. Understood. So yeah, that's something definitely we can, if it may be a little manual initially. I'm trying to get an estimated date or time. I don't have one as to when it would be more automated. So, it's kind of, I have to just say it's roadmap right now. It's coming, but I don't have it yet.
Sure. Sounds good.
All right. So you said, all right, so I already have that. P&I is your current provider. And are they filing your taxes for you, Mindy? Or are you doing that yourself?
They're filing our taxes on our behalf.
Okay, perfect. Because we would do that as well. How many legal, I know you have a couple different legal entities. How many do you pay payroll out of? Two. Okay. And what states are you doing payroll out of?
Maryland and DC.
And DC, okay. And what is your payroll frequency? Is it bi-weekly, weekly?
Weekly.
Okay. And what is your approximate head count for payroll right now?
38.
38, okay. And you anticipate any major change in that in the next year or two?
I mean, we definitely would like to see some growth as we're moving along. So I'm budgeted for 50, a head count of 50. So we'll have to see where the future takes us.
Okay, that's fine. And on your hourly people, and I saw notes that almost everyone's hourly. Is everyone going to be in the field service working in next service for their time entry?
So currently all of our hourly employees do use our time entry system through LMN for time and attendance. So they record their time, they even record their working time and their time off in the LMN system. All of our staff employees do not obviously record time, and we're using the time and attendance module in iSolved to collect things like PTO and sick time.
Okay, so let me take a step back. So the prior question before I came on was how the time being collected in next service was flowing in. So it's going to go right from, if your person, the time, if I clock in at 8 in the morning and then I clock out on a job at 12, 4 hours is going to pass over directly to the NetSuite timesheet. So the timesheet is already going to be inside of NetSuite, and the time is going to be there. Now they have to, start drive. They would have to select drive time, and then it would, when they start drive, and then when they end drive, and then they have to collect that. It's going to pass through as a pay item for NetSuite, so that your people are getting, paid, but it's this drive time, and as you said, you won't have to count it in the prevailing wage. So that's where it would be getting entered going forward, unless you, the only alternative to that is that, in that way they would have to do a single entry. So if they were using something like LMN, they're gonna have to do double entries, because when they start a job, they're gonna still have to do it in next service, and then they would still have to do it in then. But I guess that's why my question is, how many are all of these people field people for the most part, that are hourly, that would be using that? Or do you need to have a different time and attendance for those that are not using the next service module?
So no, we do have some office folks who are hourly.
Okay.
And ideally, we wouldn't be using LMN for any of our time and attendance going forward. So with the NetSuite system in place, we would not be using LMN.
Okay, and so you're on your office people. Is it okay do you need to see clock in, clock out, or is it okay for them to say, I worked 7.5 hours today?
So the way our system currently works, and the way our Suprema works, is that we need to see that time in and time out.
Okay.
And if I can interject, it's not just time in and time out, but it's per job. So, our project manager might work on a job for 2 hours of the day and then switch to a different job and work on it for 3 hours that day.
Yes.
Okay,
so Amber is correct in that, some of our billable hours still will need to be recorded, whether they're hourly or salary. So for instance, Doug is a project manager. He is a salaried employee. However, he does have some billable hours that track back to an individual job. So he is logging that time in LMN currently.
Okay, so that can go directly into NetSuite's timesheet. They would just be able to pick the project and the job. So if they're not using next service, they would just be able to do that and be able to pick that information, no problem. Which is why I'm asking if you have to collect. I started at 9, I clocked out for lunch, I came back, had an hour for lunch, came back and worked my afternoon. If you have to see all that, then we have a separate time and attendance that we would have to bring in for those people. Otherwise, if they can just collect, just say I worked 7.5 hours on this job today, or I worked 2 hours on this job and 3 hours on that job, then we don't have to bring in time and attendance.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's definitely a clock in, clock out, and oftentimes clocking into a specific job. Our current system asks the question at the end of the day, when you're clocking out and submitting the time, if you're deducting the half an hour for lunch or not. We find that a lot of our people, we work through lunch. We don't clock in and clock out. If we're not leaving this site or leaving the office, we're not clocking in or clocking out for lunch. Okay.
And I understand that's how the current system works. I'm just, if that's what you need going forward, that's fine. We have a solution for that. But it is an additional module, but you just pay per the number of people that you need, that actually need to use that particular item. If you don't need it, then you can just enter the total hours worked directly into the timesheet, but you can still, put the time on the project. All right, so do you think that's what you would want to see? And if you can just tell me how many people would need to be able to have that kind of extra time and attendance that wouldn't be using field service? Like 5, 10?
Yeah, I'm gonna say right now it would be 5.
Okay. Okay. Okay, and how are you, are they getting paid by direct deposit? Are you printing paychecks today?
They're all direct deposit.
Oh, great. 100%. And do you have an idea, just, and I'm looking for a range like 0 to 25 or under 50, between 25 and 50, of how many earnings and deduction codes you have in payroll today?
We have less than, I'm gonna say less than 15.
Less than 15. Okay, so great, perfect, less than 25. All right. And do you have any garnishments today?
Some, yes.
About how many?
5 or 6.
Do you ever hire seasonal workers?
So the technical answer to that would be yes, because most of Claudia's team has a season cutoff. So their season runs from like second week in March through late November, early December. So that's our current setup. Yeah. But a lot of those folks do transition over, or we are working to have some of those folks transition over to work with our install team. So if there's work available, they will supplement our install team.
Okay. All right. And do you ever have any work that is a day rate?
No.
Good. Okay. And do you ever have to pay any per diems?
We do not currently pay any per diems.
Okay. Knowing these certified. Are any of your employees unionized?
No.
Good. Okay. All right. And last, I think this is really the last question is, do you need to pay any employees a commission?
Currently, no.
Okay. All right. I think we are good here. One last question. On the hourly, on your staff working the fields, do you get a lot of overtime?
It varies. It depends on the workload, but yes, we do have some overtime.
All right. One more question I lied. When you're filing for doing Affordable Care Act, you're not at 50 employees yet. So I think it's the cutoff is 50. So you're not quite there. Never mind. You're not there.
Yep.
All right. I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you, Carol.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate
Mindy,
the
any
extra
quick
time.
questions for Carol?
Is it possible for me to see what a sample report would look like? So if we were to stay with our current provider, and I know that at some point there is some plan in the works to potentially shift us over from P&I to ADP for payroll processing. And so is it possible for me to see what a sample report would look like? So I just have an idea of what to expect, or is
what type of sample report? Are you talking prevailing wage, or are you talking just?
I would love to see a time and attendance report.
So
I mean, reports,
if
I
you
think
use, so I can, walk through what the reports natively look like in NetSuite, what things, when it comes to time and attendance, I can demo what our time and attendance function looks like. You would see what it looks like online because it's a direct integration into NetSuite. Once time is approved, it just flows right in. I don't know that I can I pull a report because it just goes right into NetSuite's report. So I could show that to you, NetSuite's reports.
Okay.
And that's something, Carol, we could send to Mindy? Or is it a demo?
I could see what I can send versus what I might have to demo.
Okay. Amber, I'll send those to you and you can distribute and we can see if we need to dig in a little bit deeper.
Okay.
sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Carol, thank you for this. Thanks for moving your schedule around for the Furbish team. We appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, so in terms of next steps, we're gonna huddle internally, and Amber, we'll get back to you with a full, we'll prepare documentation and then start the process of readbacks to make sure everything is documented, if this is on track for your project. And we're targeting a time Monday afternoon. And then what will be the next steps after that, Amber, after we get your documentation?
Then I have to present it to corporate, and then they get to make the final decision.
Okay. Would you ever need another presentation with this team?
I don't believe so.
Okay. All right. So we'll put that together. We'll do a readback, and then, readback should generally be, at least 1 or 2 sessions. We want to make sure nothing's being missed.
Okay.
And I'm sure it's just the same in your business as well when you're agreeing for a construction project.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, on behalf of the wider NetSuite team, we really appreciated your time and consideration, and just want to end where I began with that. You are Furbish is in our ideal customer profile, and we're just thrilled about every time you look at NetSuite, you're more and more intrigued to see how much more of it you can use. And this is something I brought up with my leadership and everything. So you might get tapped on the shoulder for if you'd be open for references and things like that. And customer success stories on our webpage. I've sent a couple of links, but you'll see lots of stories on our website, and it's companies like Furbish that we look to put there.
Awesome. Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you for staying over a little bit of time, and I wish you all a great Friday. And Amber, look for that note from me with some times on Monday.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
team. Take
Bye,
care.
everyone.
Bye now. Bye now.